So you know one of the central elements of Pesach, one of the mitzvahs of the night, is the Magid portion, is the retelling of the story of our exodus from Egypt. Meaning we have a few Torah mitzvahs for the night. We don't do Korban Pesach now, but matzah is still a Torah mitzvah, and maror. And the telling of the exodus from Egypt is a Torah mitzvah. And then we have the 4 cups, which are rabbinic in nature. The Gemara in the Mishnah explains, Pesachim Tezayin, that one should ask the question, why is this night different than all other nights? Manishtana halayla hazeh mikol halayla. We ask the question like that. We follow the structure that was created for us by the Baal Haggadah and the Balei Mishnah structured the question that way, and that's the way we ask it. Manishtana halayla hazeh. There are a lot of questions on this opening question that kicks off the Haggadah. We give the Halach Ma'anya introduction, and then we kick off the actual Haggadah portion with Manishtana. So we're going to start with the Gra's question. We're going to ask a few more questions around the Gra's question. We might have some questions on the Gra as well. So in the Gra's Perush on the Haggadah, the Gra says Manishtana halayla hazeh, and the Gra wants to know why we say Manishtana halayla hazeh and not Manishtana halayla hazos. Because as we know, Yom is masculine, Laila is feminine, and so therefore, why are we saying halayla hazeh? We should be saying halayla hazos. Now the Gra wants to go and prove to us that the night is feminine. Actually, maybe we'll hold on for that for a second. One of the other ways that we see that this night is strange, that there's a shinui over here, and the Gra points this out as part of his question why night is spoken of in the masculine, is the fact that we have specific mitzvahs that are done at night on Pesach. And if you look through the other Taryag mitzvahs, where do we ever have a mitzvah that's specifically meant to be done at night? Meaning there's a night aspect to the mitzvah. All the other mitzvahs, let's say of the Moadim, of the Chagim that we know of, are Kiss Shofars during the day, Lulav is during the day.
Nearest Hanukkah.
The Hanukkah that we light at night, that's a D'Rabbanan.
Right.
Right?
Ketores in the temple is also brought at night, right?
No. As a matter of fact, there are no korbanos at night.
Yeah.
That's the whole light. At nighttime, they burn the things that are left over.
Cleanup.
The cleanup is at night. There's no mitzvah to do it at night. There are some mitzvahs that we have which have to do with the full day, like the sukkah, because you have to be there for the full day, or Shabbos, because it's the whole day of Shabbos, or even Kriya Shema has to do with rising and laying down, laying down and getting up. This is the only place where we see that the Torah tells us these mitzvahs have to be done specifically at night. Korban Pesach is at night only. Matzah is at night only. Maror is at night only. The retelling of our exodus from Egypt, we see later in the Haggadah, from a drasha of Chazal, is at night only, when the matzah and the maror are in front of you.
The korban is at night itself, or it's eaten at night?
The korban is brought during the day.
Yeah.
But the kiyum of the mitzvah, the doing the mitzvah of korban Pesach, is only at night.
Got it.
Right? That's why we have to wait on Pesach, even though we're supposed to have the table all ready to go during the daytime. We have to wait for 3 stars because, specifically, all of these mitzvahs can only be done at night. Okay, so the second question of the Gra is that other than the fact that we see that Manishtana Halayla Hazeh, this night seems to be masculine as opposed to feminine, there's another aspect that we see about it, which is that there are mitzvahs at night, which is strange. We don't ever see mitzvahs which are specifically meant to be for the nighttime. Another question we can ask is that we see that so much of Pesach has to do with the throat. Eating, drinking, telling the Haggadah. I mean, there's a lot of mitzvahs of eating on Pesach. Right? The Korban Pesach, the matzah, the maror, and the daled kosos, and even the Pesach, right? The mouth speaks. Why is matzah lechem oni malav? Because we speak about the matzahs while they're on the table. It's a lot of mouth-related mitzvahs and eating-related mitzvahs, which are very physical and very coarse, on Pesach. Another question is a question that starts already with the Rishonim, but the Achronim spend a lot of time on it as well. We ask the question, Manishtana Halayla Hazeh. When did we answer the question? Where in the Haggadah do we answer the question? We ask the question, why is this night different? But when do we actually say an answer? We just go on and we say, we do this, and we do this, and we do this, and other nights we don't do this. But what was the answer as to why? Manishtana Halayla Hazeh.
Are we asking why or asking what?
What?
Are we asking why is it different or what is different about it? Because if you're asking what, like Manishana, what is the difference, then it does answer.
Well, we seem to be asking really Lama Nishtana. As a matter of fact, that's one of the questions that's asked is why doesn't it say Lama Nishtana? One of the answers which is given, by the way, one of the answers is that Manishtana is not actually a question. That's not the generally accepted answer. But just like we say ma rabu ma'asecha, it's not a question. We're not actually asking ma rabu ma'asecha. We're saying, wow, ma rabu ma'asecha. So Manishtana Halayla, wow, this night's so different. And then we go on and we talk about it. But as a question, the ma really is a lama. It's not an eich.
Yeah.
Right? So what's the answer to the question? Manishtana. And then the fifth question.
Aren't the following four questions actually the answer to Manishtana?
No. If our question is why is this night different than all the other nights, right?
Because on all other nights we dip once, and on this night we dip twice.
That was Shmuel's question. That's why. That's not why. That's like if I say, why are you taller than him? And you say, because I'm 5'7", or 5'9", or whatever it is. You didn't answer why. You said a what.
Uh-huh.
Right? We're looking for the siba. The other question is, why is it that this event of Exodus of Egypt is sort of the axle around which all of Judaism rotates? Meaning there were tremendous miracles that happened, but the creation of the world was also a tremendous miracle. What is it that's so unique about these miracles, which in a way sort of recreated the creation of the world, that they become sort of the hinge, the axis around which all of Judaism rotates? That we're always
the creation of the people.
The creation of the Am, right?
It's not a universal holiday. Creation of the universe is universal.
But the creation of the universe is for everybody, not specifically for the Jewish people. But this is our
Exodus, Sirius Mitzrayim is ours.
Yeah, but Sukkot is also ours, right? Yeah, there's more in the Avodah Zarah.
Yeah.
The question is, why is Pesach the central holiday of the Jewish people?
Meaning we're Yetzias Mitzrayim.
This is not the central.
The miracles of Yetzias Mitzrayim are everything is Zecher Yetzias Mitzrayim. We're always referencing back to that.
That's the question.
Okay, so one of the answers, which was said very nicely, was that it's because it celebrates the creation of the Am. We're going to see there's something that's even going to go deeper than that answer. That answer is going to be part of it, but it's going to go deeper than that answer. Okay, so let's start a little bit with the Gra beginning to clarify his question. Okay, let's ask a question right now on the Gra, and then we'll leave it to the end. Hopefully, we'll have time to answer the question. First of all, when we ask the question, some of us might have said, "Oh, of course, it's such an obvious question. How come I never asked that question?" Why don't we say hazos? But my son's being incredibly polite. He already knows that everywhere in the Chumash that you look, Lila's always in the masculine. When you say to someone good night, what do you say?
Laila Tov.
Why not Laila Tova? Laila Tov, but Laila Hahu, but Laila Hazeh. Lail? There's mostly Lailas. And every Laila that you're going to find in the Chumash is either a Laila Hahu or a Laila Hazeh. So we'll leave that question to the side. We'll have to try to understand maybe deeper what the Gra himself is asking in this question. But the Gra definitely wants to point out that there are masculine aspects to the night of Pesach. What do we mean when we say masculine aspects? So as we saw in the Gra's second question, we see that there are specifically mitzvahs of the night. And mitzvahs generally are seen in the masculine aspect, the Bechina Zachar. Women generally are pturos from mitzvahs, especially mitzvahs shezman grama. Right? The whole role of the man is the mashpia, or we shouldn't say the man, the masculine force in the world. Right? As the mashpia, we have just quickly, just in case anybody needs the review, we see that the world is created of two forces. There's a force of giving and a force of receiving. And that exists in every relationship. Right? Even when Hashem creates the world, there's which Kosh Baruch Hu has to create, but then there has to be a creation to receive what Hashem is giving. There's an aspect of giving, there's an aspect of receiving, the masculine and the feminine aspect. So we call them Zachar and Nekeva, or we call them Mashpia and Makabel. But the male aspect is Mashpia, it gives over, and the feminine aspect is Makabel. Now, that's not to say that one is superior and inferior. As a matter of fact, the male aspect is completely useless without the feminine aspect. It's the feminine aspect that gives significance to the male aspect. So, again, we should be seeing the fact that we're seeing all these mitzvahs done at night means that this is a very masculine night. So it's like, just like you would walk into a shidduch and you saw that your date had a beard, you would ask Manishtana. So too the Gra is saying, when you get to Leil Pesach, that's your question. Manishtana halayla hazeh, why is this night masculine? Nighttime is supposed to be feminine. There's not supposed to be mitzvahs at night. But here we have mitzvahs, and they're happening at night. So the question of the Leil Seder is, why does tonight have a masculine aspect to it? That's how the Gra understands the question of Manishtan. Okay, and that's the answer, the question that we're going to be searching for an answer for in the Gra.
But if you're saying that every time it says night, it always has a masculine aspect. I don't see what the question is here specifically.
On Pesach.
I was saying, but it always does. It always has it. Like, what's different that there's something to ask on?
Meaning, what's the Gra's question?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Because the mitzvah is at night.
I was saying, but if why is he asking what's the masculine aspect of this night if every single night has a masculine aspect? It's like, okay, it's the same as every other night. They all have a masculine aspect. If you look anywhere in the Torah, as you said, it all uses, like a
Good. So
what's the question specifically here?
Good. So just like we're going to do a reverse of our first example of going on a shidduch and the woman having a beard. If a woman shows up to shidduch and the man's wearing high heels and a dress, and he's he's wearing makeup, she's also going to ask Manishtana. But every male has a feminine aspect. Why? You have an X chromosome, don't you?
If they actually do, would they fit in well together?
It could be that they actually need to be on a shidduch with each other.
You're heading down a very dangerous road, my friend.
But yeah, we could talk about that at a different time. But so too, you're right that night has some aspect of masculinity to it, and that's why we're going to leave it to, that's the question we're leaving for the end. But the Gra saying of all nights, this night is far more masculine than other nights, and as a matter of fact, it could be that in order to understand the masculine aspect of any night, you have to understand what's happening on this night. Okay, so that's the big question for the Gra, is the fact that there are mitzvahs at night. And mitzvahs are a daytime thing. Days are in the bechina of zachar, they're in the masculine aspect. Okay. Good. So the Gra is going to take an interesting approach over here. Ma nishtana is also a statement. Not in the way we said it earlier, it's still a question, but there's a allusion over here to something deeper. Ma, says the Gra, is the bechina of Adam, the bechina of a person. Why is Ma a person? Because, Elias is going to tell us very quickly, Ma is gematria 45. Adam is gematria 45. Man is the thing that takes Lila and makes it masculine. We'll read a little bit here in the Gra. He says this is Yesod Adam, which is Zachar, but Lila is Sod Chava. Night is the aspect of Chava. Day is the aspect of Adam, and night is the aspect of Chava. Chava is the hidden part of Ma. Chava is the hidden part of man. And he brings a proof from the following pasuk in Tehillim, V'layla layla chave das. Right? Layla. V'layla l'layla. Yechave das. Chava. Nights are chava. It's another proof for the Gra that nights are in the feminine. V'layla l'layla. Yechave chava das. Okay? So therefore the mitzvahs are male and females are pater, like Lila, and the aspect of Chava. Okay, so that's the question, Ma nishtana. How did this night become a Ma? How did the night, which is supposed to be Chava, how did it turn into Adam? How did the feminine become masculine? That is the way the Gra understands in the level of Sod, the question of the Mishnah. You have a question, Rabbi Asher? You look like there's one boiling up inside you.
It
Okay.
just identifies as masculine.
Oh, okay.
Question.
Yeah.
So we started off saying that nights are masculine, and then the Gra brings a proof that nights are feminine, which forces the question of why is it now
No, nights are feminine.
nights are feminine.
Okay. Nights are 100% feminine, as that the Gra brings from his famous Yesod, Scharim Nekevos. Right? Anything which in the plural ends with Yud Mem is masculine. Anything in the plural which ends with Vav Tav is feminine. So Leilos are 100% feminine. Mm-hmm. We ask the question that we see that the Chumash does refer to Lila in the masculine, but then we try to put that question aside. It seems like it's still simmering for a lot of people, which is fine. But it's on the side for now. So Lila is for sure feminine. Mm-hmm. And the Gra is building proofs for that, which means that the Gra knows that maybe you're not so sure, that you agree with him. And one of those proofs is that we don't do mitzvahs at night, and the other proof is from the pasuk, Laila Chave Das, that Chava, the aspect of night, is Chava, is the feminine. Yeah? Okay? Okay. We're going to go very, very deep for a second, just because it's amazing to see what all these concepts are built on. The aspect of Adam, the masculine that the Gra is speaking about, is actually found in the milui of Hashem's name. Meaning there's a concept in Kabbalah where if you take every letter of a word and you spell it out, you can reveal things about it which are hidden. Hidden concepts or hidden purposes of that thing. So if we take the name of Hashem, Yud, Hey, and Vav, and then Hey. And you ready to do another gematria?
26.
Well, that's Yud Hey Vav and Hey is 26, but now you have to add Vav and Daled for Yud. Oh, you're working. Okay, a second Hey for Hey, another Vav for Vav, and another Hey for Hey. Yeah, you guys get to 52. Hold on.
14, 24, 34 plus 12 is 12 plus 34.
Oh, because Hey is
46.
Hey Aleph. Sorry, that's why we overshot it. Because Hey is Hey Aleph.
Is it 45?
Yeah.
No, it's 45.
That's what I thought. Trick question.
Okay, Yud Vav Daled. Yeah, it's 20. Hey Aleph, 6. Vav Aleph Vav, it's 13. 39. Hey Aleph Hey, another 6.
Hey, Aleph, hey.
40. Hey Aleph, another
Yeah.
6, brings us to 45. So when we open up the deeper aspects of Shem Hashem, we find Adam. What's Adam doing there? Adam is in the hidden aspect of Shem Hashem because it's the creation of the world, which is when the name of the Yud Hey, the Vav, and the Hey becomes relevant. What happens before the creation of the world, we don't have names for that. Or we can't relate to that. When the world is created, that's where the concept of the Yud and the Hey and the Vav and the Hey is relevant. It's right the Yud of the upper world, the Hey that brings it out, the Vav that connects it down, the Hey that brings it back out. These are all ways that we relate to Hashem. And because as the receiver, the one who recognizes Hashem, does his mitzvahs, we're the ones who make that whole concept, in a sense, relevant. Right? As we said at the beginning, what's the point of a creator with no creation for us, as far as the way we view the universe?
Which actually makes us the Nekeva aspect in the relationship.
Yeah, in this relationship, it does make us the Nekeva aspect of this relationship, but there's still going to be a Zafar and Nekeva to it. Let's second. Because just like we're receiving, but also you have the male and the female in Adam as well. So now, the Gra set up here that the Chava was the Ne'elam of Memhei. Chava was the hidden aspect of Adam. So now we're going to do it again. Right? If we take away the first letters and we only look at the Milui, the second aspect, Aleph, Vav, and Aleph, no? Oh, and Vav Dalet also. Yeah? So Vav Dalet, Aleph, Aleph Vav, 18, and Aleph, 19, brings us to Chava. So even we opened Hashem's name, and we came with Adam. But then when we took away the hidden aspect, what's behind the first letters of that, we got rid of the Yud, the Hey, the Vav, and the Hey, we were left with Chava. So Chava is the hidden aspect of Adam. Why? Because Chava is the Ezer Kenegdo. She's the one that takes what Adam does and allows it to come to fruition. So the Adam is the masculine aspect. It's the hidden aspect of the Shem Hashem. And Chava is the hidden aspect of that. So the Adam aspect represents daytime, doing the mitzvahs, proclaiming Hashem's name out in the world. Chava is the hidden aspect. It's the one that allows those things to have a place to germinate and come to fruition. Okay? Now, what's interesting, we're going to have to make a few more points about the Gra, and they're going to help us understand the Gra moving forward, is that also the pasuk that the Gra chose to bring about this idea also has some questions regarding the masculine and feminine aspect of it. Because we said, Laila, v'laila lalaila yachave das. And we're talking about the feminine aspect. Uriel, what's the feminine aspect?
Of what?
Of is
Are
it
you
das?
asking or?
I'm asking you, is it das? Talk about the feminine aspect.
I'm listening, but I didn't understand what you said.
Meaning, when we talk about the male and the feminine, as far as the midos go, the male is generally regarded as chachma. Chachma is the mashpia,
Bina.
and bina is the makabel. Bina is the receiver. The feminine aspect is bina. And the verse that the Gra brought about over here was V'layla layla yechave das, which is not feminine. Rather, what we see that the Gra is alluding to over here is this concept of the feminine being transformed into the masculine is actually through the unification of Adam and Chava working together, taking Chachma and Bina and creating Das. There's a revelation of something deeper because the masculine and the feminine are coming together. So the whole night of Pesach, the reason why it's masculine is because the feminine is attaching to the masculine in order to reveal something new. So all that is in the deeper explanation of what the Gra is saying. Have questions?
No.
It's laughing at me because the dog is barking and I'm flinching.
No, I'm actually happy that it's recorded.
Okay.
To go through it again deeper.
Okay, good. So that's all the explanation on how the Gra understands the question. Now, we need to start answering the question. Should we review what the question is one more time? Yes.
I have a question.
Yeah, please.
Why didn't you connect the Mem Hey 45 with the 45 from the Yud K Vav K
We
that you
did.
came up with?
That's exactly what we said. That the Mem Hey of Ma is the concept of Adam. It's the masculine. It's 45.
Okay, but you never. Okay.
I didn't connect it well enough? I apologize.
I have another question. Were you trying to suggest, or is the Gra trying to suggest that because nights are feminine, and we have the Ma, and Ma is Adam, so that's like the remez that it's a masculine night on the Ma? Is that what you said? Did I miss that part? Or is that what you said?
Yeah, that's how the girls understanding.
Okay.
The Chazal are alluding to that when they say Ma nishtana halayla
But
hazeh.
doesn't that turn it into a statement? Ma, ma'am, like man, is different. Is the
Man, what's
different,
different
in
about this night?
or Ma is the difference in this night. Like the masculine is the difference in this night as a statement, as opposed to like a question.
Good. So, if we did that, we would be ignoring a fundamental rule on how to look at Maimari Chazal, which is Eina Medrash Yotzei Midei Pshuto. The Pashas, it's a question. The Ramez is teaching you the total depth of the question. And the depth of the question is, how did this night become Ma? How did this night, which is feminine, become masculine? How did that work? Yeah?
Yep.
Okay. So, we start a little bit to answer that question. As a matter of fact, the Gra wants to deepen his points also, but there's also part of we can begin to start to answer it. In the question of, after the questions of the four sons, we get to this drasha we said we were going to get to, which is, at what time is the mitzvah of the Exodus applicable? So we know Nisan's a whole month that's really connected to Geula. So the first guess that Chazal have, first assumption, we should say, rather than a guess, is that you should be able to start talking about Yetzias Mitzrayim already from Rosh Chodesh. Nisan was the time of Exodus, so maybe already from Rosh Chodesh you should be able to fulfill the mitzvah. But the verse says, Bayomahu. On that day. No, it has to be on that day. So now we know that we've moved to where? To the 15th. You can't do it on Rosh Chodesh, it has to be on the 15th because the verse says that you have to tell it over Bayomahu on that day. The next question is, Yachal Mibod Yom, so should we say it on that day? Is that the idea of during daytime? Is that when we should say it? Rather, if you look in the pasuk, it says Bavur Zeh. No, you're supposed to tell your son Bavur Zeh because of this. What's ba'avor zeh? B'sha'ah sheyesh matzah u'marom munachim mufanecha. You can only tell the story of the Yetzias Mitzrayim when you have matzah and maror sitting in front of you. When is matzah and maror sitting in front of you? During the daytime. During the nighttime. Thank you. During the nighttime. But the Gra says, how did the pasuk refer to the nighttime? What do we say? We asked the question, can be Rosh Chodesh? No, the verse says Bayom Ahu. But it's not Bayom Ahu. It turns out that it's Balayla. So the Gra once again says, it's not only that. Look, even the Chumash itself is referring to the night of Pesach as Yom. It's calling the night of Pesach Yom. Bayom Hahu.
But in English,
And in
what-
Hebrew.
but
And in Hebrew.
when we refer to day,
It also includes the night, and in Hebrew as well.
so the beginning of the let's call it the 24-hour period of the day,
Yeah.
right, begins at night for us, right?
Okay.
For the rest of the world, it begins at midnight, at 12 o'clock. Midnight is the beginning of the next day. Also at night, actually, right? But ours begins at sunset of the day before, Shkia, the day before. Is the reference to Bayom Hahu meaning on this 24-hour period of time, or is it meaning when the sun is out?
Good. So in Pshat, yeah, at the end of the day, you're right. The reference is to a 24-hour period of time. But anytime the Chumash says Bayom, I assume it means during the day. Why? Because the Chumash could just as easily be very specific as to what it wants to reference. So anytime that the Chumash says Bayom, the first assumption of Chazal is always going to be, oh, daytime. And if there's a very strong reason why it can't be daytime, then Chazal will say, oh, well, we see it can't be daytime, so it must be the less straightforward understanding that Bayom means the 24-hour day. So here too, Bayom Ahu, the first assumption of Chazal is daytime. But after we see that, no, Bavur Zeh, these things have to be sitting here, we see that no, as a matter of fact, it really means a 24-hour period of time, and specifically at night.
But I don't know where he gets that from. They could be sitting there at lunch.
No, they can't.
Why?
Because Bavur Zeh means matzah and maror. It means you're doing the mitzvah of matzah and maror, which is only at nighttime.
And we understand we're doing it at nighttime. That's a Torah command?
Yes, 100% it's a Torah commandment to do it at nighttime. You're not mekayim the mitzvah of matzah, maror, pesach if you eat them at any time other than the night of the 15th.
What is the literal... Sorry, I'm getting old. What's the literal statement that tells us that this has to be done at night?
That's
It's a
has
Torah
nothing
commandment.
That's a Torah commandment. Has nothing to do with this part of the Haggadah is discussing the mitzvah of telling over the story of Yetzias Mitzrayim. The fact that you have to do it at night is because the pasuk says specifically on the night of the 15th you do these mitzvahs. There's no question that the mitzvahs are done at night. It's not even a drasha. It's beferish verses in the Chumash that matzah and maror, that's all done at nighttime with the Korban Pesach. Just that when your son asks you, how did we merit to leave Mitzrayim, you tell him Bavur Zeh. Bavur Zeh means because of matzah, maror, pesachim. But in this, the Gra sees the beginning of an answer to our question of Manishtana. How did the night, which is feminine, become masculine? And we see that the verse itself says Bayom Ahu, and it's talking about sitting down with what? With the mitzvahs of the night. Meaning, matzah, maror, korban pesach, those are already the beginning of an answer to the question, how did the night become masculine? There's something about these mitzvahs that gave the power for the night to take on a masculine aspect of it. Now, we're going to see a contradiction in the Haggadah which we'll use as the springboard to start to finalize, bring it to fruition, the Gra's answer to the question of Manishtan. Okay, so when your children ask you in what merit we were able to leave Egypt, what do you tell them? It's the mitzvahs of the night. Because Klal Yisrael did the mitzvahs of the night, because we ate Korban Pesach, because we ate matzah, because we did Moror, so that we had the schus to leave, right? That's the famous question. How did Klal Yisrael have the schus? We weren't tzaddikim. Why should Hashem take us out of Galus and bring us into Geula?
Why would you not say the answer to that question would be Mila and the... Yeah,
Mila,
and Pesach?
Mila is a hechet himsa. Meaning, they didn't do Mila until now, and the fact that they did Mila was not actually one of the commandments of the night. It's just that you can't eat Korban Pesach without doing Mila.
No, but as being one of the what gave you the source to leave Mitzrayim?
Korban Pesach. How do you eat a Korban Pesach? You have to have bris Mila. Bris Mila might have been part of the schus. It's a different question altogether. Meaning, it's a different conversation. The connection between the mitzvah of bris Mila and the mitzvah of Korban Pesach. But certainly, the mitzvahs of the night that Klal Yisrael had to do that night were Korban Pesach, matzah, and maror. It's just that if you don't have Mila, you can't eat Korban Pesach.
And
Now you see that Shevet Levi didn't do Mila. They didn't have to. They'd already done it.
Scared me for a minute.
But, sorry, that's in the Midrashim. Yeah, that because they weren't in Shiabud, so they actually kept Mila. If someone was born Mahul, they also didn't have to do Mila.
there are a number of differences between the first Pesach and all Pesachs
Pesach
after
Mitzrayim and all Pesach after, yeah.
that are unique to that first Pesach that we don't do. We don't paint the lintels of our doors.
Some of
We
us
don't.
do. But now that we're
Okay.
commanded to. Yeah.
Gets the neighbors a little
But-
worried.
But is that not part of the merit of the Exodus? Is that-
No.
No?
No. The mashmos of painting of the door, and it's interesting. It's to protect you from the mashkas, right? From
So you
the
could
plague of the
survive
first
long
war.
enough to leave.
So you could survive long enough to leave. As a matter of fact, that Rashi points out that the blood on the doorposts it was on the inside,
Yeah.
meaning it's for the people sitting in their homes.
Right.
It's a musar for us to contemplate these concepts of Mila and Korban Pesach as we sit in our homes and wait for the Geula. That I think we actually spoke about that Pesach, pre-Pesach 1 year, the Hashkivenu bracha, which Rabbeinu Yonah says was created speaking about that night, where everybody sat in their homes and awaited the Geula. Yeah, and everything that goes into that.
But that wasn't merit, per
No.
se.
The
Okay.
merit was the mitzvahs. You get
Okay.
merit through doing mitzvahs, and it was specifically these three mitzvahs. So how do we get out Bavur Zeh? Because we did these mitzvahs. We created the Geula. And yet, if you go later on, V'tzienu Hashem in Mitzrayim, Hashem took us out of Egypt, Lo al yedei malach, not through an angel, Lo yedei saraf, and not through a seraph, Lo yedei shaliach, and not through a messenger. Right? Even Moshe Rabbeinu didn't take us out of Mitzrayim. Moshe didn't take us out of Mitzrayim. We didn't take us out of Mitzrayim. Ella HaKadosh Baruch Hu b'chvodo uva'atzma. HaKadosh Baruch Hu took us out of Mitzrayim b'chvodo, in His glory, uva'atzma, and by Himself. There was no partner. Hashem did it on His own. And now we have a contradiction. Because how did we leave Mitzrayim? Did Hashem take us out of Mitzrayim? Or did we create the Geula by doing the mitzvahs? On the one hand, we said Bavur Zeh was through to do these mitzvahs, we got out. On the other hand, we said HaKadosh Baruch Hu did b'chvodo v'atzmo. There was no partnership, not Hashem did it. This reflects also a deeper question, philosophical question, which the Gra is going to help us answer, that reverberates not just through the Exodus, but through all Jewish philosophy, which is, if Hashem knows all the events that are going to happen, and there's an end to the world, and there's a Geula that's going to happen, and there's a Mashiach and everything, do we have Bechira? Do the mitzvahs that we do actually do anything? Are we pulling the strings? Or is Hashem pulling the strings? That's basically the question we're asking. Did we create the Geula? Or did Hashem create the Geula without any help? So the Gra gives a very short answer. And in the goddess of the Gra, it's all together. But the next part, the sort of explanation of the answer, is really Rav Menachem Mendel of Shklov. The Gra had a student known as Rav Menachem Mendel of Shklov, who was probably really the Gra's. We speak about Rav Chaim Volozhiner a lot, but really Rav Menachem Mendel seems to have been his Talmud Muvak, and certainly his level of genius is also pretty unfathomable for us. And Rav Menachem Mendel was also one of the Talmidim who was sent there to Yisrael. And a lot of the explanations we see of the Gra in his writings are brought through Rav Menachem Mendel of Shklov. So we'll give the brief answer of the Gra, and then we'll do the explanation of Rav Menachem Mendel. Okay. Good. The Gra says this answer: Hashem takes out of Mitzrayim not through a malach, and not through a saraf, and not through a shaliach, is to answer that Geula did not come from any of these aspects. Geula is something that can only come through Hashem. Hashem didn't send any messengers to do this. Even Moshe Rabbeinu, because it said, Lo Yedei Shaliach. Even Moshe Rabbeinu did not take us out of Egypt. And as a matter of fact, what we saw is that Moshe didn't do anything or command us anything in order to sort of get the Geula going. He gave us these mitzvahs that we were supposed to do, and then the Geula just happened. Unlike some of the other moments which Moshe kicks off, like the 9 plagues, here we did the mitzvahs, and then Geula just sort of was there. And so the Gra says that Moshe Rabbeinu didn't trigger the Geula. Rak Kol Yisrael B'Yachad. It was only through all of the Jewish people together, by doing Mitzvos Hashem, Pesach, Matzah, Umar. So the Gra says that this piece of the Haggadah is coming to say, when Hashem did it b'chvodu u'ba'atzmo, it's to explain that there was no messenger, not a spiritual conduit, not a physical conduit, not a single individual who came and took the Jewish people out of Mitzrayim. Rather, it was the fact that all of Klal Yisrael together did the mitzvahs.
I have a question.
Yeah, please.
There was a large number of people who didn't do the mitzvahs
Correct.
that left at the same time.
Correct.
What was their merit?
Their merit was that they wanted to be part of it.
So they just grabbed our coattails, basically.
Yeah.
Because we did the mitzvahs, they got out.
Well, yeah, once we created the Geula,
Right.
they were able to follow along. Just like once Klal Yisrael agrees to stand at Har Sinai, everybody else can benefit from,
Right.
from the Kabbalah's Torah. Okay, so the Gra sounds like the Gra is saying that Klal Yisrael were the ones who controlled fate, the destiny. We did the mitzvahs, and that sort of in a way pushes Hashem's hand to bring Geula. Rav Menachem Mendel of Shklov is very worried how people are going to understand this Gra, so he goes into depth to open up and explain it to us. B'chvodo u'ba'atzmo. There are two aspects that the Bala Gada mentions. Hashem does it b'chvodo, when he does it ba'atzmo. So Menachem Mendel understands that ba'atzmo comes from the word otzma, from Hashem's strength and from Hashem's greatness. Meaning, the idea is as follows. Hashem creates the world and everything in it. That's all the atzmis of Hashem. That's his koach that he puts into the world. That's his strength. That's his gvura that comes into the world. All the creations are in the world. But none of those creations are able to express where they came from. Pablo and all his greatness. You look at Pablo and you don't really see a revelation of the Ribbon Shalom. Look at Pablo. It's not something personal against Pablo, but I'm just, he's a great dog.
I think you can if you were close.
The only creation which creates a revelation that there's a God, that there's a creator, is Adam, by doing the mitzvahs of Hashem. When a person does the mitzvah of Hashem, there's a revelation. But there's another aspect which is called kvodo. When a person does these mitzvahs, if a person really does do them l'shem shemayim, he can connect himself to Hashem on such a high level that he can manipulate spiritual forces in the world. And he can take that for himself, like we see with Bilam. The second aspect is kvodo. That when a person has that revelation of Hashem, he, with his humility, steps out of the way and says, I'm not here. This is all Hashem. So that's how Rabbi Menachem Mendel wants to explain the aspects of b'chvodo u'ba'atzmo. So now like this. The explanation is like this. Hashem wants to reveal that he's the creator of the universe, so he brings 9 plagues. Every one of those 9 plagues, Moshe Rabbeinu is the one who sets them in motion. He says there's a higher power. There's a creator of the universe. The 9 plagues are broken up into group of 3s, which express 3 different aspects of creation. It's learned in a lot of different ways, but we could just do the easiest one that the Maharal brings, is that the first 3 have to do with the terrasphere, with the earth and the water. The second 3 have to do with the biosphere, and the third 3 have to do with the stratosphere. And then the 10th one is all of creation. It's life itself. It's the force of life, which only Hashem can give. And that is done through Klal Yisrael doing the mitzvahs, doing what they're supposed to do. That's the aspect of the 10th mitzvah, all of Klal Yisrael together. There's no warning. Moshe doesn't come in and warn Paro about Bechoros like he does the other 9. It's just Klal Yisrael coming in and painting their doors and preparing themselves for the mashchis that brings about the 10th Makkah. So Rabbi Menachem Mendel explains it as follows. Moshe is the ultimate revelation of Hashem, because he's showing plague by plague. He's doing mitzvahs Hashem. I'm doing what Hashem sent me to do. And all these great powers that come out of it have nothing to do with me. Everything I'm doing is for Klal Yisrael. And it's that humility that then brings about the kavod of Hashem. That everything is done for Hashem. So when all of Klal Yisrael, Ke'ish Echad, do the mitzvahs of Hashem, then we bring Hashem into the world, b'chvodo u'ba'atzmo. Meaning, we see the forces of Hashem in the world, we're revealing them by doing His mitzvahs, and then we're saying, and this is not us. This is all coming from Hashem.
The first 9 plagues have nothing to do with Israel in terms of mitzvahs.
Right.
Correct?
Moshe.
Yeah.
Moshe doing the mitzvahs of Hashem.
Right.
Meaning because Moshe is the one who's teaching us.
Right.
If Moshe at some point would take credit for himself, it would have derailed everything.
Right.
The fact that Moshe never takes credit, he's teaching us how we relate to the Rosh. And so basically now what we've revealed...
He's actually teaching the world and us.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right, this is, by the way, something we didn't mention, this is the mitzvah of bitachon. Chava is also, begematria, this is Ramchal. Chava is begematria betach, right? That through bitachon, Adam and Chava can create new revelations, can create new das. So it's through our bitachon to Hashem, they're actually able to create a new reality and leaving Mitzrayim. Okay, so like this. Basically what Moshe has revealed to us is that there's a possibility in this world to do something which is called Maisa Merkava. The Ramchal talks about it, and that's what he refers to as Kedusha. That as a matter of fact, people have the ability to, in a sense, create change in the spiritual world. Which means, when a person connects to mitzvahs Hashem in the appropriate way, when he does it with complete dvekus, with complete clinging to Hashem, he's doing it because he wants to reveal to the world that there is a creator. That's why I'm doing the mitzvah. And step 2, he says anything that's coming out of it has nothing to do with me, it has to do with the Rabbanu Shalom. Through that, he's actually able to create changes in the spiritual world, meaning he's able to pull the strings, as it were. So Hashem runs the world, creates the world, he pulls the strings. But Hashem created an avenue in which man could become a shutaf, could become a partner in the creation. And that's when you allow Hashem to do b'chvodu ba'atzmo. When you do the mitzvahs entirely l'shem shamayim, you're trying to reveal to the world that Hashem rules the world. And you're not taking credit for what's happening. At that point, you're a partner in creation. Okay? So, it doesn't happen very often. We can give the stories just because everyone was saying the story after Rav Chaim was nifter, right? The famous story of the grasshopper. You can repeat it. Anytime there was a Shana Mubaris, a leap year, Rav Chaim would write a sefer. Why? Because he had a very strict schedule to go through all of the Torah every single year. So he didn't have time to stop and write, because he had to go through all of Bavli, Yerushalmi, Sifri, Sifra, Braisus, Toseftas, Midrashim, and the Zohar. It's a lot of work, even for someone with an encyclopedic mind like he had. But whenever there was a leap year, now the schedule changed. The extra month, he could write a book, he could write a sefer.
It's also a lot of work in 100 years.
Huh?
It's also a lot of work in 100 years.
Yeah. So one of those leap years, Reb Chaim wrote a book called Karnei Chagavim, all about grasshoppers. And Reb Chaim had a question about certain anatomical features of a grasshopper that eluded him. And at that moment, as he was writing the sefer, he paused, and a grasshopper flew in through his window and landed on his table. Reb Chaim wrote down the notes, whatever he needed to write, and moved on. That's called that a person is a merkava. That a person, everything he does is to reveal Hashem's greatness in the world. And so basically, the point that we're learning, what the Gra is teaching us, there's this element of Kedusha that a person can attain, where the feminine can become masculine. Adam in this world can become a mashpia. Man in this world can influence things that are happening in the spiritual worlds. Manishtana alayla hazeh is coming to teach us that the first time the Jewish people had this recognition that they had this ability was Leil Pesach. Leil Pesach was the night when all of Klal Yisrael together had the bechina, they had the aspect of the Merkava. That they were influencing the spiritual world. They did the mitzvahs. They ate. Just like Chazal tell us that the Avos were like the Mizbeach, When they eat meat, it's like bringing meat on the Mizbeach. When they drink wine, it's like putting wine on the Mizbeach. When Klal Yisrael ate the Korban Pesach, they ate the matzahs, they ate the maror, they were like a Mizbeach, they were influencing the spiritual world. So who brought the Geula? Did Hashem bring the Geula? Did we bring the Geula? Well, the answer is both. Hashem brought the Geula. He promised Abraham he was going to take the Jewish people out. But Hashem also created an avenue for the Jewish people to become a partner in that. By having bitachon in Hashem and doing the mitzvahs to reveal His greatness, He allowed us to become partners in creating the Geula. So that's the answer to Manishtana Halayla Hazeh, that this night has the aspect of Ma, the aspect of Adam, and His complete revelation of connecting to Chava, that they bring about a new revelation called Das. When the Chava aspect has complete faith in the process, connected to the Adam process, it creates a new revelation called Das. Well, so without going into the details, the Sfarim Kadoshim refer to the Exodus from Egypt as Exodus of Das. Klal Yisrael were not able to access their Das. They couldn't bring down concepts in. That's why they were so disconnected, because of the Shiabud. That's the block represented here by the throat. That's a big part of why the mitzvahs that we do are all through the throat, because it's the ability to release ourselves from that exodus of that shibud, that enslavement of das, and reconnect to that aspect of das that we have. So what that means for us, practically, is we have to realize that Pesach has in it the ability to connect specifically to this level of revelation. When a person sits down on Leila Seder, the night has within it the koach to connect you to the Merkava. That the physical mitzvahs that you're doing can create revelations of das that can actually change things which are happening in the spiritual world. That's the tremendous power that our sages Chazal are alluding to when they tell you Manishtana Halayla Hazeh. This night has the ability to connect you, even though it's a nighttime, and even though we're used to being makablim and doing the mitzvahs of Hashem, can connect you to the masculine aspect, to be a partner in the creation, and to be a mashpia, to actually create, reveal deeper spiritual revelations in your own life and for the Jewish people. Okay, let's see if we answered our questions.
I have a question before you go there.
Okay.
It seems to me that the nature, my observation is the nature of nisim, of miracles, right, is very often much more about timing than about activity. Example, if the sea had split 2 days earlier, and not at the time it did split, it wouldn't be called a miracle, right? Nobody would have known about it, right? It was only a miracle because it happened at exactly the moment that we needed it.
Yeah.
Abraham was told 400 years they would be enslaved.
Yeah.
Right? The Gra tells us that we have the power to influence the spiritual world.
Right.
So there's many explanations about the 400 years. Was it 200 years working day and night, or was it the birth of Yitzchak? All of them are kind of difficult, actually, when you're trying to count the 400 years. But this actually, in some ways, is a more powerful understanding, in the sense that when you say, who's responsible for the Exodus, Hashem or the Jewish people? And the answer is yes to it, in a sense, that Hashem had made this promise that he will take us out to Abraham.
That's right.
Something pushed it forward. You know, it was a push forward because we would have sunk so low that we'd never come out. There's all the explanations. But is it perhaps what pushed it forward was actually the Jewish people's response to the mitzvahs that were required of them at that moment?
Of course, meaning the relationship between Klal Yisrael and Hashem is always a two-way relationship. Hashem has a trust in us, and we have trust in the Rebbeinu Shalom.
Yeah.
That's why Maisa Bereshis, right, the famous drasha of Rish Lakish, Bayom Hashishi, that the Rish Lakish says that Hashem made a t'nai with the creation. He said, if Klal Yisrael don't receive the Torah on Hashishi, on that day when I'm going to hand them the Torah in Sivan, if they don't receive it, the whole world goes back to Tohu Vavohu.
Right.
Hashem created the world with faith in us that we'll receive the Torah.
It seems to me there's almost more than that. When a prophecy happens, it seems over and over and over that the prophecy rarely will get worse. It almost never gets worse. It can come true for all its bad news, right? But it can always be improved. That is to say,
It's prophecy for bad.
we're going to
prophecy for good always happens.
right.
Prophecy,
A prophecy
for
bad can be changed, right? So in the sense, a prophecy for bad is that you're going to be slaves for 400 years, and it can be changed for the better.
That's right. So what you're setting up, and I don't want to dwell on it too long, but you're setting up the worldview of the National Geographic Jew and the Chazal Jew. Meaning, the National Geographic Jew is a believing Jew. And he watches National Geographic and he says that the tsunami happened at this time and it allowed, there's a logical reason. But it was a miracle because the timing was just right. So he still can believe. And he says there was still a miracle that Hashem set up, and it was about timing. And the Chazal Jew says, no. Hashem told Moshe, the sea will split when you move. When you have bitachon in me, when you show that you have bitachon in me, everything's waiting. It's there. I set it up for you.
Right.
But you have to take a step.
Right.
If you don't take a step, then nothing's going to happen. So,
Right.
so this idea of an exodus, of a geula, without us bringing ourselves to the place of geula is a funny idea. Because that's not really a geula. Because Mitzrayim, as we know, isn't just a state, it's a state of mind. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Denial ain't just a river in Egypt.
Right.
If you don't come to the place of geula, then what good does it do for Hashem to take you out? So our geula and Hashem taking us out reflect each other. It's reciprocal.
Mm.
And that's part of the whole secret that the Gra is teaching us about the night of Pesach. The secret is that a person has the ability, and Pesach is his chance to tap into it, to become a partner in the creation, and to be a mashpia, to give to the spiritual world, to shift things in the way that things work in the spiritual world.
I mean, how can we say that Nisim are about timing? Like, I don't understand that concept, because especially if we take Yom Tov specifically again, one of the generally accepted things with regards to the Kriyas Yom Tov is that Nachshon went in, right, and then it split when it got.
No, so that's
But
once
if
you
it's
put in
about
Chazal.
timing- But if it's about timing, okay, fine. So you're saying that may not necessarily.
We're saying in a
happen.
world where someone's looking at what happened without looking at the way Chazal described
Okay.
what happened. Every mitzvah every nace according to Chazal had to have some maisa from a person. The Nisim didn't just happen on their own. That's
It was
what
more
Menachem
that it's
Mendel
all
was
about-
saying.
if it's
Even
all
the
about timing,
plagues
then
wouldn't have
that-
happened if there wasn't a Moshe who came and was fulfilling Ratzon Hashem's will by saying, I'm trying to reveal Hashem in this world, and he had the faith in Hashem to risk his life to set this system into motion. Okay, so the Zos and not Zeh. I'm sorry, the Zeh, not Zos, because this night is, as a matter of fact, masculine, in that it's the ability for the feminine to connect through the masculine to actually have a masculine effect on the world. Why the mitzvahs at night? Because specifically, that's the only way to understand that idea. If Hashem would do it during the day, we wouldn't get it. It has to be at night, where everything's not about the ability to influence, where everything's not about mitzvahs, to teach you that the feminine can influence and change everything that's happening in the world. Okay, why so many things of eating, as we spoke about? That's exactly it. First of all, the throat, we spoke about the place of das, which we couldn't access in Mitzrayim. We're creating a new das, but that we were acting like a mizbeach. The eating, the using of the throat, was the way that the feminine was actually connecting up to the higher aspects. What's the answer to the question? Okay, so we answered the question, Manishtana. Manishtana is a yes, the masculine, this night became masculine. The answer to our secret question about Lila, why does every Lila have this aspect? Because it's exactly that. Because that's always there. That masculine aspect is always there. Now, why is it that every feminine word, we have masculine words and feminine words? It could be, I'm saying from my own understanding, it could be because Lila is the exact essence of femininity. It's the lack of light, right? It's the creation of the world is all Hashem's light. And the first feminine aspect was when Hashem creates darkness. But through that darkness, why was the darkness there? So you can discover and appreciate the light. And every Lila has that aspect there. It's just that this Lila is where it's the most blatant. It's where all the Jewish people learned that in night is the ability to reach the light. And why is it just a source of all Yiddishkeit? Oh, the one thing Maisa Bereshis cannot teach us, and it's actually connected but deeper than the answer that we said. The one thing that the creation of the world can't teach us is our ability to be a partner in it.
Mm-hmm.
We don't celebrate the creation of the world because it has nothing to do with us. What we're celebrating on Pesach is our ability to participate, to be part of Hashem's creation of the world.